So we're now recording, so you guys know that. And, oh, I've got two versions of these. Oh, there's the right one. Okay. Got two versions of these slides up, the earlier version and the current version. All right, let me get those up on my screen. It's taking just a minute. So this is part of our COVIDeo series, and the slides should be straightening themselves out in a minute. And today is our How to Plan and Execute Uncertain Times with Joel Kopischke of 7 Roots Group. Super psyched about this one. People have been talking a lot about this one. These topics have been coming up a lot in the previous COVIDeo series calls. This one is really all about how you're going to keep functioning as a board in these new and unusual times. Very psyched to have Joel here to do this. He's volunteering his time. Quick housekeeping. If you can be on video, do. It really does help the speaker connect and know who's talking and build more of a connection. If you can't, we understand. Please do mute when you're not speaking. There may be dozens of us in a room at a time. It really helps. We will record, it says the first 30 minutes, but we'll record as long as we're still in the core of Joel's content. He's going to be taking questions throughout. I'll explain that in a minute. But if you want to be able to talk off recording, which sometimes there's been requests for, that is going to happen at the very end. I will tell you when I've turned off recording. If you have questions for him, you don't want to be on the recording, we understand that. Robin is from Dorchester. Hi, from Boston, Massachusetts. So we're not doing check-ins. We're just checking which co-ops are here in the room and going from there just because there's too many of us to do that. Please do be cautious about staying on topic. There is so much everyone wants to talk about right now, and we really understand that. But today's call is meant to be focused and brief to get information out there to everybody. So we're going to ask you to stay on topic. If you go off topic, if you go down into the weeds of the topic, I might point out, or Joel might point out, that would be a great conversation to have with us outside of this call. You can always email us at info@fci.coop and set up a time to talk. It's always free to get that additional support. Everyone on this call is in different stages. We are going to try and focus in mostly in that kind of needs that are broad, that fit everyone who is on the call, especially those of you who are in stage 3, who sometimes attend these calls, who have a site. This is a little different what's happening right now for you than everyone else. Everyone else is looking at how is this going to impact us into the future. You are getting kind of impacted in a very immediate now with your project. We understand that you have unique challenges. We're having a special call for stage 3 needs coming up next week. If you didn't get the invite to that stage 3 call, please again email me at info@fci.coop or even just put it in the chat comments and let me know, and I'll make sure you get that invite. But we're going to ask like those really kind of, well, how is this going to affect how we fund this, or how the board should onboard the GM, like really immediate stuff. We're going to ask that we do that in the stage 3 call, or again, plan a one-on-one with us. So today's speaker is Joel Kopischke, leadership coaching and assessment and facilitation, governance support expert in all those things at 7 Roots Group. Has worked with Friendly City Food Co-op startup, East Aurora Food Co-op a startup. So he's very experienced with all of us startup folks. Today's conversation, because there's so many of us here, real quick, if you're on your computer, we're going to ask that you comment in the chat one of two ways if you have a comment or question. If you want to talk out loud to Joel, you want to ask him a question or tell him about something, to please say, you can write raise my hand, or I have a question, then you'll get in the stack. And Joel will kind of be looking at those and deciding if now is the time or if he's going to take that question a little later. And then if you have a specific, you just want to write out your question, which is in some ways even more helpful, you can do that in the comments, and Joel can decide if he can respond to it now or later in the call. So please do respect, don't just blurt out comments and questions just because there's so many of us here. Do put it in the chat. If you are here only by phone, I'm going to pause for a second. If there's anyone who is not on their computer and cannot use the chat, I'm going to pause here and ask you to let me know that. Okay, that was the unmute pause. All right. Great. Well, I am very excited to have Joel here to talk to us about how the heck to function as boards through this new normal. And I'm going to actually unshare my screen and let him share so he can drive. And I'm going to turn it over to Joel.
All righty. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Let's see. There we go. I think that'll work. Does that look like what we want it to look like?
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay. All righty. Fantastic. I'm going to try to take a second and there you go. I'm expanding so I can see all your faces too. So when I'm looking up, I'm looking at the Zoom grid. So I'm not staring off into space. So great. Thank you. So governance, boy, it's not easy under ideal conditions. So things might be a little more stressful right now, a little more challenging. And what I believe will help us get through that is focusing on the foundations. That'll keep us on track. Some of the big questions I've heard is, how do we set agendas? How do we have productive meetings? How do we get stuff done and hold people accountable? We're going to answer those and many more questions as we dig in here. So let's see. There we go. I've got a quick top 10 that will fly through. So, so take a quick look at that. Wellness check, the new normal, communicate, reassessing some things, renegotiating, accountability, meetings, cooperating, staying safe. So number one, wellness check. First thing is just check in on your team. Is everyone okay? Does anyone need support? That's, to me, that's the first most important thing in our world right now. We're a community. That's our identity. That's our strength. It's what will help get us through these times, and it's what will help us thrive in the future. So just check in on everybody and be sure that if you need buddy systems or whatever, to be sure that people are getting checked in on often enough. So things have upended. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that. So just look out for each other. The new normal. We all need to have the awareness and accept things have changed. We don't know if and when they'll change again. So great. So let's embrace this agility mindset where we're going to make some plans and we're going to make our best guess right now. And in a couple weeks or a couple months, a lot of the assumptions we've made might shift. So we're just going to be aware that we're not carving things into stone anymore, if we ever were. And that's going to require new ways of working with each other, new norms for this new time. Alrighty. The key during all times, the big key is communication. So we're going to communicate well with each other, with our members, with our community. So just an extra importance, an extra eye on detail in our communication. It's a great time to have more phone conversations. People are probably inundated with emails right now. So if it makes sense to do more phone conversations or other types of communication, if short videos, things like that. And we'll get to some of those things more as we go along. But communication is always a key. I'm just going to take a quick pause here and Jacqueline, I no longer see the chat window.
So far, we don't have any questions popping up over there, but if this is a good moment to pause and ask if anyone has any, is that what you'd like to do?
Yeah, might be good just to kind of check in, since I can't see that anymore. So anyway.
Sorry, I figured out how to do it while presenting, but it's a little, it takes a while to get used to. So anyone have any questions so far, or want to throw out specific questions or challenges or topics you're hoping that Joel's going to touch on today? Feel free to unmute or to put it in chat. Okay, Mary, how do we handle real estate discussion when owners are present online? Yeah, I'll hand it to you, Joel, but they're doing online board meetings, and I think this is a discussion of how do we do closed session when our board meetings are online. Any thoughts?
Great. Yeah, we'll do this right now. We'll kind of cover that toward the end. We're going to talk about what we do with our meetings. So you're going to need to figure out. So you'll need to communicate that this is a new world and closed session is going to look different. And so you're going to need to figure that out. Hopefully, in whatever tool you're using, whether it's Zoom or Google Meet or any of those other tools that are out there, that you have the ability to host and run the meeting. So like Jacqueline is doing today, Jacqueline can mute all of you with impunity, including me. Jacqueline can kick me out of the room if I'm not behaving. So what you want to have is you want to have that kind of control, just like you would have in a real room setting, where you would want to say, okay, now it's time for everyone to leave. You'd want to be able to have that ability. So, and that's going to be dependent on the tool you're using. It may be dependent on the type of account you have on that tool. So you're going to want to figure that out.
Definitely, those real estate convos definitely belong in closed session. So that's a how to sort out how we handle our meeting question. But if you're in doubt, the real estate discussion belongs in closed session.
Yep. All right.
Why not have a separate Zoom meeting just with the board? Do you want to hold off on that one, or?
Can you repeat the beginning of the question?
Why not have a separate Zoom meeting just with the board? Might be a response to the previous question.
Yeah, right, that would work as well, where you just schedule one block of time for open session and another block of time for closed session. That would work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we'll talk about publicizing meetings later as well.
Great. All right.
Okay, so let's move on through our top 10 here. We need to reassess what needs to be done and when. And go back and focus on outcomes, because new solutions might be needed or might be preferable now. So we're not going to be doing tabling. That's not going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. So our tabling schedule, what do we do with that? Well, first go back to the outcomes. Why were we doing tabling? What were we hoping to accomplish? And then let's figure out, well, what are some of the new ways we can accomplish that? And then reassess what needs to be done. So we're going to open all that up, look at that. As we reassess, we're also going to reassess and reassign roles, perhaps. Some people might have more time available right now, and some people might have less. That's what I'm seeing. Some people are like, yep, I'm no longer working, or the lucky people I'm getting paid to sit at home. And some people are like, no, I still have to work from home and I have to homeschool my kids now. So it's like, and my partner is at an essential job outside of the house. So it's like, I have 8 4-minute slots during the day. So now might be time to think about recruiting, revisiting some of our asks. Some people who didn't have time before might have time now. And so as we're communicating, something we can think about. We might reconfigure what our work groups look like and what support looks like. And if we need to, we draft new job descriptions, new committee charters. I kind of think this is, if any time, this is a time for a clean slate. And it's like, all right, we're throwing out all of our old assumptions. What makes the most sense now? And going back to what we said earlier, knowing that we might change some things, and in 2 months we might change them again. That's just how things are going to be, I think, for a while. So once we've figured out our priorities of what we need to get done, what we need to accomplish, our outcomes, who has bandwidth and who doesn't, what our structure looks like, then we can renegotiate our deadlines. What makes sense now? And maybe it might be better to make those deadlines smaller bites. So I definitely know there are some things that I am struggling with to be as productive as I used to be. So, and all this reassessing and renegotiating is something we may need to do on an ongoing basis. Just check in, you know. I might have a couple of good productive weeks, and then, you know, then I might get overwhelmed by just life and feelings and emotions and all of that. So we'll keep communicating, we'll keep checking in, going back to our earlier points, and we'll keep reassessing and renegotiating what all this looks like. Accountability. Okay, if we've done a reassessment, reassigned, renegotiated deadlines, we accountability. We should always be kind with accountability, but don't let things slide. Don't use this as an excuse to be like, well, it's hard right now. Yes, but if we've done all the renegotiating and reassessing and reassigning, then we have things, we have accountability, we have agreements. Let's still meet those agreements. And like during normal times, some of them will be missed, some things will be late, or some things won't be good enough. So we just deal with it like we always do. We're kind and we figure out the next step to get to where we need to go. And remember, we can have fun with accountability or breaking of norms. I know one group that they've got a set of norms that they use. You know, you show up on time, you do XYZ. That's their group of norms. If you break a norm, then one group uses you have to sing a nursery rhyme for everybody. One is you have to give a 15-second speech on a topic of your choosing. So it's just a fun way of acknowledging that we broke accountability, we broke a norm, and giving that person an opportunity to kind of do a little quick makeup to the group. And so then it makes accountability not this onerous, what's going to happen thing, but something we can even have fun with.
Mhm.
So why don't we take another quick pause and see if we've got any more questions coming in.
How to do those check-ins? Are you saying at the beginning of meetings and calls, should board chairs be individually checking in with board members? Give us a little more on how to check in.
Anything that works. So definitely, I have always had, when I've been running board meetings, I have always had a time for a personal check-in at the beginning of the meeting. Just so everybody can just kind of state where they're at, and then everybody kind of knows what's going on in that person's life. So we can be supportive. You know, someone, you know, it's like you check in and say, you know what, my mom's health is not doing great right now. Or I'm really stressed by this or whatever. And it's an opportunity to just put it out there, and then everybody knows. And it's like, oh, okay, Joel seemed a little distracted tonight, or seemed a little, you know, short with his answers. You know, it's an opportunity for us to not take things personally. It's an opportunity for that other person to get unspoken or spoken support. Just like, and I know when I get to say that stuff, it's easier for me to be like, okay, I'm worried about my mom right now. It's easier for me to then take that. And it's like, now I can put that aside for the next hour and a half or 2 hours while we have our meeting. It's easier for me to do that if I get to speak it. So definitely do that at the beginning of meetings. Check in and see how everybody's doing, because it might vary a lot day to day. If your board chair or if someone else on the board has the time to reach out and do one-on-ones, great. Or if you want to assign buddies, great. I just think that's really important right now for everybody, whether they're on a board or a co-op or not.
Excellent. We have another one for you from Free Range. Do you think now would actually be a good time to have a board's doing a board self-evaluation to help us understand where limitations are and what people's availability are right now. So is this a good time for kind of a general board self-assessment?
I think it's a great time. Yeah, absolutely. Because we can look back and say, all right, what have we done? How did that go? And then, because it's all part of that reassessment, you know, and what's our new normal, and what do we think we can do? What do we need to? What are our opportunities to improve? Yeah, great question. I'm
Yeah.
gonna, I'm
I
gonna
got
add
another,
that to my slides.
right? I got another great one for you. They're starting to load up here. What if you've got some board members who are in very different places? Some feel a need to really pause things, and others have time to step up and want to move the co-op forward. How do you rejuggle all that?
Well, as a group, just like during any other time, as a group, you're going to need to decide what you want to do and what you're able to do. So, hopefully you've got a good board culture, good board decision-making process where you're able to, people with those differing ideas are able to come to the table and, advocate for what they believe is right now. And we can look at our mission, and as a group, we can see where is our, where do we align? Where can we come together, come to some sort of agreement on what we're doing?
Yeah, I would agree. And this has come up for some startups. If you're split on whether to kind of majorly pause the whole project or move forward, that's something you can reach out to Joel, you can reach out to me, but we can, at FCI, we can coach you through that a little more, intimately, a little more personally. I think that it's going to depend on your individual circumstance, but we have seen a lot of that where we've got boards that 2/3 want to plow forward and 1/3 wants to really just pause the whole thing, or vice versa. And there are ways to work through that. I know Joel's have a ton of time today, but I'm assuming they can reach out to you. Is that okay with you, Joel? If they
Yeah.
need, if they want to talk about that further, okay. And you can of course reach out to me. Got one more really great one before, if you want to take it, or you want to pause on questions for a minute.
Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay. Lacey from Whitewater wants to know if we're going to be covering succession planning during this time. They're having big turnover coming up. Normally they would start planning and recruiting next month, but that just feels incredibly daunting right now. And I know that Assabet's dealing with that and a few others.
Yeah, so I would, again, go back to that reassess, check in with, there were people we thought were going to be moving on, see if that's still true. And everybody who wasn't necessarily planning on succession, you need to be thinking about it too. Same part of that reassessment. There are people who, may have been doing lots of heavy lifting, and now they've got kids at home all day. And those windows of opportunity, those windows of time where they were putting in lots of productive work aren't there. Or for a myriad of other reasons, life situations have changed. So, I think, as daunting as it is, it's something that everybody's going to have to look at right now. Who's here? Who's going to be here? What kind of bandwidth do we all have? So.
Yeah, I think reassessing that internal bandwidth and which board members might be able to pull forward and pull a little more weight and who has to pull back, and then figuring out how you're going to recruit. But we actually have seen 2 startups I know that have to recruit right now who have really doubled down on it, and they've actually not had a problem getting people to at least sign up to start attending board meetings and consider it, because there are, as Joel brought up, people who suddenly have a lot of free time, especially sometimes professionals are kind of in a getting paid but not working situation, and so those people seem so far to be out there in a lot of communities. So
Yeah.
great. Joel, do you want to I'll take a little pause on questions and move forward a little?
Move forward. Absolutely.
All right.
Meetings. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So again, how often? What's our duration? What's our schedule for the board and committees? Figure that out. Let's reassess our norms, our old and our new norms. We still get that packet of info out in advance. Is more time needed? If we've been doing it, if we've been getting by with a couple days, is that not work anymore for people? We need everyone prepared when we're going to have a meeting. Our agendas, what's urgent, what's important. throw out all the assumptions that we had, or use them as a reference, but don't stay locked into what our old agenda plan was.
Mhm.
Strong facilitation will be needed. You're going to have less peak productive time in a virtual call. There's going to be more distractions, potentially. Definitely more cats walking on keyboards than in in-person meetings, I would imagine. So you might timekeeper if you haven't been. And that's both for individuals and for keeping us on track with the specific agenda items. And then master the technology. So, and some of our new norms are, arrive early. Well, that should hopefully be an old norm, but arrive early to be sure. I've been finding, I called in to Jacqueline and found my microphone wasn't working at first.
Mhm.
And it took a little bit. I know people who've called in and quality's bad. They're like, all right, I'm gonna hang up and reconnect, and then it's fine. Ideally for our board meetings, we want everyone on video. Probably mute if you're not talking. Use the chat window, stuff like that. Advanced features like we talked about before. Have someone who's able to host and able to mute people if needed, who's able to perhaps chat with them one-on-one if conversation's going off track, if a correction is needed. And kick somebody out if you need to. So careful if you are publicizing your meetings. If you are putting, here's our Zoom link for our 7 o'clock call, and putting that out on your website. So there are always trolls around, and it's a really low bar to click on a link and try to cause chaos for somebody. And for some people, that's how they're getting their kicks right now. So there are some advanced features you can use in Zoom, where you can enforce a waiting room, you can enforce passwords. There's lots of different things. So look into that, get the tech support you need to make those sort of things happen in a good way. Our last two are real quick and easy ones. Just remember to cooperate, have patience with each other. Call on your friends and allies. You've got about a couple dozen of them on now. We're stronger together. And stay safe. Wash your hands. And I'm not saying socially distance yourself. Physically distance yourself. Stay socially connected. That's important now more than ever. So that's our top 10. Wellness check. Adjust to the new normal. Communicate. Reassess what needs to be done, when, who can do it, how are we structured, what are our new deadlines, what's our new schedule. Don't succumb to West nice and stop doing accountability. Figure out how to do meetings in this new world. Cooperate, stay safe. Boom.
Okay. Well, we've got some tech questions coming up. So guys, this is the part where you can ask as many questions or share information about what you've been doing as you'd like as peers. Just please do put in the note, that you want to speak, so Joel can put you in order, or I can, so we don't have everyone trying to talk at once. It gets kind of messy. So we'll start with, so this is where you might get a little more into the weeds with a tech question. Kim has run into that she has not been able to type notes in Word or any other program while participating on Zoom. She gets kicked out. I don't know if you've seen that, Joel, or if anyone else is running into that.
I think there are some settings. I think there are some settings where if you switch away from Zoom, it might let you know, or it might let the meeting organizer know, and there might be a setting that disables you if you switched away from Zoom. So one way that you might be able to get around that is make Zoom only part of your screen. I don't know if that'll work or not.
Yeah.
So
Heather shared that too. She says you may need to exit full screen, and I do know one person who said they got around this. I mean, not that you necessarily want to run both, but they did Zoom on phone and were typing notes on their laptop, and they just preferred that division. That might work for you too.
Yep.
So, Lacey, so I'm going to lead next. So a quick comment from Lacey, and then Lee'd like to ask a question out loud. Pro tip: if you have the capability, I have an external monitor and my laptop. I put Zoom on the monitor and work on my computer. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got 2 monitors going here as well.
Yeah. For those of us who don't have the 2 monitor situation, phone, laptop. Okay, so Lee, you wanted to speak up directly or ask Joel a question? I got you. Are you able to unmute, sir? I see. Go find you.
Who had the question?
That is Lee. I'm gonna hit unmute just in case it's a problem on our end.
Oh, there's Lee.
I didn't have a question. I was just commenting on the full screen thing too.
Okay.
Great. Have you taken control back, Jacqueline?
No, I haven't.
Okay. You could probably do that whenever you wanted while we're
Okay.
at a quick break here, but.
All right. There, now we can see everybody.
Okay.
Leads to a little bit better conversation. I do think though, Lisbon's got a question right this second. This might be a good time for me to stop recording just in case if people want.
Oh, great. We can talk about people now, right?
We find